But he missed his finish time by 10 seconds. It's supposed to be 2 o'clock. By 10 seconds. Beautiful music. Rain. And our opening hymn today is somewhere right here. Number 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please stand if you're willing and able. A holy place, our heart is in a holy place. We are blessed with love and amazing grace when our heart is in a holy place. When we trust the wisdom in each of us and color every creed and kind, and we see our voices in each other's eyes when our heart is in a holy place. Thank you. You may be seated. Good morning. I'm Ken Willingham. I'm your worship leader this morning. So ours is a welcoming community where we find connection and meaning, a sharing community where our joys are amplified, a caring community where our sorrows are lessened. We also welcome guests from Facebook Live and our Zoom audience, as shown on the screen. All are welcome here. Do we have any visitors this morning? And if you would like, somebody held up their hand, it's a good thing. If you would like to, you may stand, give your name and just where you're from, something simple, so we can greet you. Okay, go for it. Good, thank you, welcome. Are there any guests from our Facebook Live or Zoom audience?
No new guests, no.
Thank you. Okay, we welcome everyone, regardless of race, creed, color, social level, economic status, gender identity, or whom you love. All are welcome here. I've already been through all that. Okay, time for church announcements. Do we have any church-related announcements this morning? And we have a volunteer in the back.
So I'm Nancy. One of the hats I wear here is that I'm the treasurer of the church till the end of June. On the third Sunday of every month, the donation in the offering plate that we pass goes to a nonprofit, sometimes local, sometimes UU affiliated or national. Today's offering will go to the Spirit Animal Fund. Many years ago, there was a horrible instance of a animal cruelty here in town, and the dog needed a lot of care, and the community poured in donations, and so they took care of that dog, who was named Spirit. And ever since, they have continued to collect money for that fund for animals who come into the shelter who need care that the shelter couldn't afford otherwise. And so that's what today's donation will be.
Thank you, Nancy. Any other church? Yep, here she comes. Yep, two of them.
Thank you,
So when Sharon gets rolling with her boot on, stay out of her way.
Good morning. Wanted to remind you that the Friends Night Out is coming up on January 27th. That's not this coming Friday, but a week from Friday. Friends Night Out is when we just gather together socially, just because we want to. Usually it is to go out to dinner somewhere. This time we're going to Rafferty's, and there is a sign-up sheet on the guest table out there. I need to know how many for sure are coming by Wednesday, the 25th, so that I can confirm our reservation. If you're interested in joining us, just put your name on the list and show up that night. And if you're a guest, you're welcome to join us as well. In fact, we'd love it, and we can get to know you better. And we begin at 6 o'clock. I'll probably be there a little bit early just to get it moving and make sure that they're ready for us. On February the 18th, we will be having a circle supper. I did bring the box today. It's time to sign up if you want to do that. And what that is we get names of all the people who want to participate. We divide you into groups of usually 6 to 8 people, and various people will volunteer to host at their homes. And we will put together a group and say, okay, you're going to David's house this month. And what? And David says, okay, I'm going to make prime rib for dinner. Okay, seriously, we will assign you to a group somewhere, and whoever's hosting will provide the main dish, and then every other person is asked to bring something. It's not every other couple, because that wouldn't be fair to the people that are not a couple. So every other person is asked to bring something to contribute to the dinner. It gives you a way to get to know people on a more personal level. And dinner in a restaurant is great, and that's more personal than just coffee in the entryway here. But to go to someone's house and sit with just a few people and talk over dinner is something different, and it's very special. So if you are interested in doing that, there's a sign-up box outside. We try to do this as randomly as possible, and there's sign-up sheets on top. So put your information on it. If you are willing to host, that would be wonderful. If you are not, that's okay. We'll find places to have these. Okay, and if you have any other questions, let me know. Yes? Is the, for the Circle Supper is the 18th. It is the Saturday after Valentine's Day. We decided Valentine's Day was closer to the weekend before that, if it was going to involve a weekend, so the Saturday after. And those start at 6:30. You're on, Marcia.
Hi, I'm Marcia. I just wanted to say that February 4th and 5th is a weekend that there's going to be an interfaith habitat build, and a lot of different religions might show up. Synagogue has their services on Saturdays, and so Sundays might be a nice time that we might want to go, or Sunday after, or maybe Saturday. I mean, I don't know, but anyway, Saturday and Sunday is when the build's going on. For Interfaith Habitat Build, and I think some of you might want to contribute to it too financially. If so, we do it through the name of UUCE. And if you want to show up to work, just go to Habitat's Facebook page or email address to get the information on your phone. Yes. Oh, okay. Okay.
So the house that the Interfaith Habitat Group is building is at 312 West Virginia, and the guy who's getting it, he's a single dad. I think he's in his late 40s. He has a son that lives with him, and he is a substitute teacher, and he's an umpire. And I think he also referees football games, like little league, like little guys football and little people's baseball games. But being a substitute teacher and doing that thing for his living, he doesn't make enough money to kind of make it on his own. But I wanted to mention that because I think he does really important work. And so if we can help him build his house, I think it's a great thing.
Okay, any other church-related announcements? Okay, I have one. This Wednesday is Guys Night Out. It's at Taroni's on Main Street in downtown Evansville. Starts at 6 p.m. And I have a number of signups, but I need them all by Wednesday or Tuesday, so I can call in reservations so we can have our own tables. Thank you. Any other announcements? Okay, well, each week we spend a few minutes stepping across the aisle to greet and welcome each other. And I'll ring the gong when it's time to come back to your seat. Okay, go for it. Okay.
I wanted to say something about the music that I'm going to play right now. It's another one of the Debussy Preludes, a real short piece, but I think it's the most wonderful evocation of a cold, cold, cold winter day. And the name in French is Des pas sur la neige, which really means footprints on the snow. You have to translate it as footprints in the snow. So just imagine this cold weather plus snow, really cold.
And we have the really cold part going real well. Thank you, Bill. May I have a volunteer to light the chalice, please? Don't everybody jump up at once. There's one. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around this light of hope as we share this time together. Thank you, Mark. To write your own words for gathering the offering, Reverend Eric Wilkstrom says, many congregations say the same words, congregations say the same words each time the offering is taken. Yet there is an opportunity here to reflect on just what it means to be a self-sustaining and life-giving community. What is the meaning of giving, of generosity, of your congregation, its place in your wider community and the lives of its members? Where does the money go? What does money mean? All of these and more are subjects that could be reflected on offering. And what Nancy offered today about where this one will be going, I think is very important and matches in with that. May I have 2 volunteers, please? And right after this, we're going to be honored with a guest singer. Thank you all for your generosity this morning. At least we know where this is going. So Miss Ellie Jane is going to sing This Little Light of Mine, accompanied by Mark Wilson.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. All through the night, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Thank you very much. Now we have the story for all ages. Yeah, she really hit that one, didn't she? Okay. Those of you who are young and those of you who are young at heart, please come forward while I do the story for all ages. So Pat Zelo Miller wrote, "Be kind." So Tanisha spilled grape juice yesterday, and there would be Tanisha spilling her grape juice. And it went all over her new dress. Everyone laughed. I almost did too, but Mom always tells me to be kind, so I tried. I need to grow a third hand. I don't think it worked, I said. Purple is my favorite color. I thought Tanisha would smile, but she ran into the hall instead. When she came back, snack time was over. She put on an art smock. Thank you. She put on an art smock and didn't look at anyone. Have a seat. trying to word it. Okay. I almost told Tanisha that art was my favorite class, but I didn't want her to leave again. So I painted purple splotches and added some green until I had a bunch of beautiful violets. While I painted, I thought about Tanisha. Should I have handed her my napkin, let her borrow my sweatshirt, spill my juice so everyone stared at me instead? What does it mean to be kind anyway? Maybe it's giving, making cookies for Mrs. or Mr. Rinaldi who lives alone, letting someone with smaller feet have my too tight shoes. He might win races in them too. Maybe it's helping, putting dirty dishes in the sink, cleaning up after Otis, our class guinea pig. He is a messy eater. Maybe it's paying attention, telling Desmond I like his blue boots, asking the new girl to be my partner, listening to Aunt Franny's stories, even the ones I've heard before. Being kind should be easy, like throwing away a wrapper or recycling a bottle or saying thank you, bless you to a sneeze. Mom says the quickest way to be kind is to use people's names. Hey, Carla, what's new, Omar? Good afternoon, Rabbi Mandelbaum. Being kind can be hard too, even when you know what to do. Teaching someone something I'm good at is tricky, even when I'm patient. And sticking up for someone when other kids aren't kind is really hard. Maybe I can't solve Tanisha's grape juice problem. Maybe all I can do is sit by her in art class and paint a picture for her because she knows I know she likes purple too. Maybe I can only do small things, but my small things might join small things other people do too. And together, they could grow into something big. I'm going to skip the art because I know you can't really see it. Something really big. So big that all our kindness spills out of our school, spreads throughout the town, travel across country, and go all the way around the world. And again. Right back to Tanisha and me so we can be kind again and again and again. Here they are just being with each other. That was the end of the story. It's always good to make sure that I don't have the cord wrapped around my feet before I stand up. Bill, you have some opening words for us?
Let's see here. Well, I'm looking for a poem. Thought I had it right here. This is a poem by Mary Oliver, and it's from her book American Primitive, which won the Pulitzer in 1984. And I'll make more reference to the poem later before I talk, but the title of the poem is Ghosts. Oh, and there's two things I ought to tell you about it. She makes reference to the Bitterroot Mountains, which are in Montana, and a guy named Lewis, who undoubtedly is Meriwether Lewis, AKA Lewis and Clark Lewis. So just set this poem in place a little bit. The title is Ghosts. Have you noticed? Where so many millions of powerful bawling beasts lay down on the earth and died, it's hard to tell now what's bone and what merely once was. The golden eagle, for instance, has a bit of heaviness in him. Moreover, the huge barns seem ready sometimes to ramble off toward deeper grass. 1805, near the Bitterroot Mountains, a man named Lewis kneels down on the prairie, watching a sparrow's nest cleverly concealed in the wild hyssop and lined with buffalo hair. The chicks, not more than a day hatched, lean quietly into the thick wool, as if content after all to have left the perfect world and fallen, helpless and blind, into the flowered fields and the perils of this one. In the book of the earth it is written, nothing can die. In the book of the Sioux it is written, they have gone away into the earth to hide. Nothing can coax them out again but the people dancing. Said the old timers, the tongue is the sweetest meat. Passengers shooting from train windows could hardly miss, they were that many. Afterward, the carcasses stank unbelievably and sang with flies, ribboned with slopes of white fat, black ropes of blood, hell hunks in the prairie heat. Have you noticed how the rain falls soft as the fall of moccasins? Have you noticed how the immense circles still, stubbornly after 100 years, mark the grass where the rich droppings from the roaring bulls fell to the earth as the herd stood day after day, moon after moon, in their tribal circle, outwaiting the packs of yellow-eyed wolves that are also, have you noticed, gone now too. Once only, and then in a dream, I watched while secretly and with the tenderness of any caring woman, a cow gave birth to a red calf, tongued him dry, and nursed him in a warm corner of the clear night in the fragrant grass in the wild domains of the prairie spring. And I asked them, in my dream, I knelt down and asked them to make room for me.
Thank you, Bill. We take a few minutes each week to reflect on our joys and sorrows and acknowledge the mutual support of our community. If you would like, you may come with sorrows that may be too dear to share at this moment. So each week we take a few moments, just sit, quietly meditate, reflect. And I always encourage you to sit quietly in your spot and expand your awareness of what's around you, because we are all so much larger than our physical bodies. Feel the energy from those around you. If you can. If you can't, that's okay too. But do what you can to find it. That's something unusual. And when we come out, we'll sing number 123 in the great hymnal, Spirit of Life. Yeah. Yeah, you're the main speaker today.
I'm still on, yeah, okay. As you saw outside on the marquee, the title of the talk today is Tikkun Olam. Those are words in Hebrew. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but right now, for our purposes, those words mean repair of the world, okay? And that's going to be my focus. I want to thank Ken and Barbara because of their interest in this book that I compiled a few years ago. And they also were interested in having me talk about it today, so here I am. And I can hardly say the title of it because it's so long, but the title is Growing Good, A Beginner's Guide to Cultivating Caring Communities. And I was encouraged to do this by a friend of mine who's an editor at the Indiana University Press. In fact, she pushed the project all the way through. I just did the pieces, and I compiled this. I've written a bunch of it, and I'll read to you from the introduction to today, but we'll get to that in a minute. The poem that I read before, Ghosts, is a really important one for me. I used to teach nature writing at UE, among other things, and we always read that, and that whole volume, American Primitive, is just fantastic and very, very sensitive and very, very purposeful, especially nowadays. I wrote a story a number of years ago, and it relates to this, and I've forgotten the title of the story, but it was set here in Southwest Indiana, so I did a lot of research, and I remember the research. I can't remember the story, but I do remember the research, and it starts with the story of the bison, and of course, which we don't know or no one pays much attention to, but we don't have buffalo in the United States except in the zoos. We have bison, and buffaloes are found like the longhorn buffalo in Southeast Asia and in Africa, but here we have bison. Well, we also had woodland bison, and my story, I remember where the story started, in the parking lot of the defunct Walmart, on that side of town, where I am, just before Red Bank Road, okay? So in the story, which takes place in the present, the kid opens the car door to get out and go to Walmart, but then he drops into the past, and as he's looking to Red Bank Road, he sees woodland bison going by. And of course, Red Bank is a red bank. That is to say, it's red clay, and it was a highway for the bison at the time. And they go down to drink at the Ohio River, and then head out or head up north to go to the various salt licks, such as French Lick, salt licks to get salt and so forth. But anyway, so I imagine just seeing those bison there. And at the time of, at the beginning of the 19th century, in other words, around 1800, there were at least 60 million bison in this country. And mind you, each of these critters weighs about 2,000 pounds, right? I mean, they're not minute. And that by 1889, the fact that there were only 451 left in the United States is just amazing and horrifying at the same time. And that's, of course, behind the stuff that's behind Mary Oliver's poem there, right? Well, in the same story, whose title I can't remember, but anyway, in the same story, I looked into the history of the passenger pigeon, okay? And they used to be regular visitors to this area. And in fact, a conservative estimate says that in the 1800s, there were at least 3 billion, not million, billion of these animals, probably closer to 5 billion. And one of the accounts that I read of the passenger pigeons in this area was that one time the flock was so great passing overhead that it was dark for 4 days. There were that many critters in the sky, okay? And actually there are some downsides to that, as you can imagine. You didn't want to be the farmer whose property they decided to, come down to and light on, right? Yeah, right. You'd be horrible, right? And the trees would break down, and the excrement left behind would just foul the water and the land. But 3 to 5 billion were destroyed. There was no natural avian flu. There was no bird pandemic or anything like that. And somehow the last one died. The last one passenger pigeon died in 1914, if you can imagine. So within just 100 years that this damage could occur. Anyway, I have several scattered kinds of thoughts here, and here comes the next list. I taught at university, I taught French and English literature, but focused on Africa because I'm an Africanist. I've spent a lot of time in Africa over the years. But so I was reading in the New York Review of Books lately, and it was a review of a book called The Cruelties of Empire. And there's a lot of talk about colonialism and the imperial assault on the world by usually European nations. But anyway, I'm just going to read, this is a quote from one of the British forces in India. So the British, managed India, if I can say it that way. But listen to this. We proceeded systematically, village by village, and we destroyed the houses, filled up the wells, blew down the towers, cut down the great shady trees, burned the crops, and broke the reservoirs. At the end of a fortnight, the valley was a desert, and honor was satisfied. You might wonder how honorable it might be to destroy other people with the questionable intention of providing them with a new and supposedly better government. And the more interesting thing is that the writer of those words was Winston Churchill, whom you know as the famed liberal prime minister of Great Britain in World War II, and then eventually the winner of the Nobel Prize. And this story, the colonialism story, I know better in the African context, and in particular in the Belgian Congo, okay? And I just want you to, just for a second here, I'll talk about this in a minute too. We were just traveling in Belgium and in the Netherlands, my wife and I, and beautiful countries, and wow, it's great. But Belgium is a tiny place. I mean, if you drove from here to Vincennes, you would have, moved out of the country. It's that small. It's a third the size of Indiana. And here it's this tiny country taking over, quote unquote, the Congo, which it's at least about 1 million square miles. Just go figure, okay? And of course, and again, this is about the same time, around 1900. The Belgians had no humanitarian interest in the Congo. All they wanted was, well, first of all, ivory, secondly, gold, and the third thing was diamonds. So what they could extract from this place, right? If you know Joseph Conrad, The Heart of Darkness, that's the story. And although his work is fiction, it might as well be fact. I mean, he's quite literally correct about it. What he saw down there, because he was there. In any case, so that this tiny country could impose itself, because it had arms and so forth, impose itself on this giant space, in the center of Africa is, well, fairly astonishing in a kind of horrible way. But anyway, so that occurred, and it's always struck me so strangely that this little bitty country could do that. And for a while, the whole country of, well, it was Zaire later, Congo, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, was owned by the King of Belgium, King Leopold II. So it was his private playground, or whatever he could use to extract his stuff. And since I mentioned Belgium before, and again, a very beautiful country, and I always wondered why Antwerp, city in Belgium, was considered the diamond capital of the world. Well, duh. I mean, because they've had a long colonial history going and grabbing the diamonds out of Central Africa there. So anyway, it's a terrible story in a lot of ways, but a story that we're totally responsible for, people. Anyway, I mentioned Belgium. We were visiting, beautiful country. We also visited the Netherlands, which is where my daughter lives, in Rotterdam, fantastic city. But while we were in the Netherlands, we also visited Amsterdam, okay? And while in Amsterdam, we did what you do when you're in Amsterdam, and we went to the Anne Frank house, which is really the Anne Frank Museum, right? And it is precisely the house that she and her family members and another family in there were holed up in for 25 months, okay, from 1942 to 1944. And it was one of those things which is fantastic and horrible at the same time, a lot of those, but the experience, that is to say. But the building itself faces onto a canal, and if you don't know, Amsterdam is there's 4 concentric canals that run around the old city, and it's absolutely beautiful. And so this building faces right onto one of the canals, and none of the buildings are terribly tall, so it wasn't very tall. And it was a shop. I don't remember what they sold in the shop, but anyway, next to the shop and behind the shop is what they called the annex, and that's where the families were holed up for those 25 months, okay? And right. And the only communication between the shop and the annex was a movable bookcase that they had, of course, designed for that very purpose. Wouldn't be noticed. Well, ultimately it was. And you could see all that too. And so you walk, I mean, if you go to the museum, you walk up through the shop into the house, and you kind of go from, did we go from up to down? Yeah, we went from the second floor down, I guess you go. And you do it very slowly. And needless to say, it's dark and it's cramped, but that's how it was, right? I have to get mad when you look online and some, there people write comments, on not Facebook, but online anyway. One of the first comments that I read was the guy wrote about it. He said, "What a horrible museum! It was all cramped and dark. I couldn't, I felt terrible." And you're going, "Well, how stupid are you?" But anyway, it's a problem we get. We think we can talk at any time, So this family, as I said, these two families, there were 8 people all together, were held up in this annex for all this time, and of course the story is well known. And Anne Frank is it's a household name, isn't it? And most people have read of, or have read the diary, or have read of the diary, and we certainly know. And Anne Frank, was known for her great optimism, right? This little kid in this horrible circumstance until the family was discovered, quote unquote, by Gestapo agents, or if I were Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'd call them gazpacho agents. But anyway, it's true, but that's another amazing thing. Here are Anne Frank's words, though. "In spite of everything, I still believe that people are really good at heart. I simply can't build up my hopes on a foundation consisting of confusion, misery, and death. I see the world gradually being turned into a wilderness. I hear the ever-approaching thunder which will destroy us too. I can feel the sufferings of millions, and yet, if I look up into the heavens, I think that it will all come out right, that this cruelty too will end, and that peace and tranquility will return again." Well, unfortunately, Anne herself was a victim of that growing wilderness that she talked about. And of the 8 people in that compound in the annex, 7 died at concentration camps, and Anne and her sister Margot died in Bergen-Belsen, but they died of typhus, which is a pretty horrible way to go. And while we're on the subject of the Second World War, the death toll is conservatively placed at 45 million worldwide. And I'm not making a mistake with that. I've checked the numbers. I mean, it just perverts the power that we have. Okay, I'm going back to my title again, Tikkun Olam. And as I said, it was Hebrew. And it refers to various forms of action that are intended to repair and improve the world. Okay, makes sense, things that we could do. And that's kind of our mission as people, is to try to do what we can to improve lives around us and at the world. I'm going to read from the introduction to the book a little. Is that art? Is our painting available?
Just have Molly bring it up.
Oh,
Molly, would you bring up the painting, please?
wow.
Share screen.
Hey, yeah. Can everyone see this? Yeah? Oh, can I see it?
Sure, you can see it.
Oh, I need some that. Can't be any bigger. That's okay. It's cool.
That's what she's got.
Anyway, this is a painting which you probably recognize by Paul Gauguin. French painter, was painted, I think, 1897, 1898. Gauguin had left France and ironically went to one of the colonies, aka Tahiti, which really wasn't terribly pleasant for him anyway, but still, and that's where he was when he was painting this. And the title of the painting, I'll do it in English, not in French, is "Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going?" And these words are up in the left corner. You can't see them, and they're in French anyway, but that was his title for the painting. So I'll do it again. Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? All kind of big existential kinds of things, right? So here's my introduction to this book. The title of this introductory essay is taken from the famous 1897 painting by Paul Gauguin. It is an enigmatic work. Human and animal figures inhabit a lush tropical landscape. The various sizes and groupings of the figures, some seated, some picking fruit, some seated near a sleeping infant, one much older figure crouching alone, a stolid idol with upstretched arms. Together, they suggest a symbology that even today remains undeciphered. Yet Gauguin considered this work his masterpiece and scratched the title words onto the upper left-hand corner of the sackcloth canvas. Those words express yearnings that all people share and for which human society might provide plausible answers. And these questions may today be raised again with increased concern for the well-being of others and of our planet. There has been a wholesale attack on common decency in the United States in recent years. You can tell when I wrote this, right? This is about 4 or maybe 5 years ago. I wonder what was happening. But anyway, a newly empowered and strident nationalism has sought out and targeted minorities to demonize, denounce, and banish immigrants, neighbors, Muslims. A vocal, intolerant, and reactionary Christianity has publicly vilified other faiths and even other more moderate Christian voices. Environmental regulations and the offices that enforce those regulations have been gutted, and years of environmental protections have come under threat from the very forces empowered to protect that environment. These power-wielding politicos and their regressive actions would surely answer Gauguin's questions differently. Theirs would truly be a new world order, one that is extravagantly selfish, intolerant, xenophobic, and venal. The United States has not always looked like this. As French traveler Alexis de Tocqueville already noted, in the early 19th century, there's long been a thriving spirit of voluntarism in this nation. Certainly, part of the impetus of such caring action has been a recognition that not all people gain equally, or at all sometimes, from general economic well-being, political representation, or the benefits of a democratic society. Sometimes that impetus is fueled by religious belief and practice. Observing Christian tenets has led believers to establish and develop hospitals and care centers, among other altruistic efforts. Often that impetus stems from no religious injunction at all. We live together in society, now made ever smaller with easy access to social media, and empathetic people are witness to what others lack or need and can work to redress that inequity. In fact, the focus of this volume is precisely these people and how, in these uncivil times, they work to care for the people and the world around them. This is also a story about community, that overused and often maligned word. For our purposes, community is a social network that usually extends beyond family members and connects individuals to their neighbors, to their towns or cities, and to the land on which those cities are built. For those of us who have spent our adult lives in places where we have no family members, and that would be me, we assert our place in community and our concern for the well-being of that community in the acts of common friendship and often active altruism. These days, so few caring voices can be heard above the vitriol of Twitter accounts and political invective. Growing Good, A Beginner's Guide to Cultivating Caring Communities, is a record of some of these other voices, a small chorus of social and environmental justice practitioners from the American Midwest. And when I first got the assignment to do this book, I thought I would focus only on Evansville. And there's many things, many good things that are happening in this town. But then, well, there just wasn't enough stuff to stuff in a whole book. So I cast the net a little bit wider. So, and I'll tell you about this in a minute. So for instance, the first essay in the book comes from the head of the food bank system in Indianapolis. The second chapter was written by a woman who works with refugees in Louisville. She was a former student, which is totally cool. The third chapter is a colleague of mine who has native plant garden. He's all about native plants and trying to extend the wealth there. I wrote a chapter having to do with a community garden program that I've run for about 15 years here in town, and you get the idea. Everything relates to various activities which are to enhance our lives and and which exist in respect of nature too. Anyway, so this is the very end of this. Growing Good, A Beginner's Guide to Cultivating Caring Communities, is a book for any time. It catalogs efforts of ordinary people to care for their neighbors and for their home spaces. The theme of the book is all the more important today, given the national miasma generated by mean-spirited political cant and counterproductive political action. To Gauguin's question, where do we come from? The answer is historical. We are a nation of immigrants who, for the most part, have welcomed others and other viewpoints to this country. My 4 grandparents arrived on U.S. shores in the early years of the last century, all from Eastern Europe, lured by the hope of work and a better life for their families. They were not disappointed. What we are is a group of people who define our community, our place in the world, as part of a social and physical environment, both of which we acknowledge that we must care for. The view forward in response to where we are going is at the moment frightening. Yet many of us are working to better, not impugn others' lives. Many of us are working to preserve, not pillage, our environment. And many of us are working to ensure that it is ordinary people, not a plutocracy, that truly define what we as a nation value. And that's what I have to say. So now it's your turn, comments or questions if you have, and I can answer.
Yes, Tom.
Tom, go ahead.
Would you come to the mic, so
Yeah.
this is so that people out of the online can hear?
Bill, I was just wondering who the native plant person
Chris Hochwinder?
Oh, yes.
Well, there's several folks really, but at UE.
At UE?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just a time to plug native plants. You recognize their importance? Yes. Very, and if you saw, for instance, I don't have any grass I have a house in town here. I have a lot, but there's zero grass because I don't like grass, and I have a lot of flowers and bushes and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But when I started changing to native plants, I can't tell you how so many more insects, and the good part of that is the insects draw the birds, and therefore so many more birds were available in my yard. This took time, a matter of years, but it really is extraordinary. And a lot of the plants that we've brought in, many can be very beautiful, but they're not the things that the critters around here want to eat. So anyway, it's just a plug for native plants.
Comments? Questions?
Thank you, and I'd like to read that book.
Yeah, you can get it at Your Brothers Bookshop.
Okay, thank you. I love what you said, and it speaks to me too. And when we get involved with these organizations, it not only helps the community, it also helps you because you meet people that kind of bring out the best in you. And I have so much appreciation for so many just local organizations that have helped on lots of things, and I appreciate that. And the bigger goal, of course, is not me, but it, what serves all of us, and thank you.
Yeah, sure, you're
that.
welcome.
And also, I love that you tell us about your music, because I like to visualize what's
Oh, okay,
going on.
cool.
Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you.
I'll just mention that this community garden program was right by UE. If you drive by what I call on the distress way, as you go there and you see this giant hideous UE sign there, but at the foot of that sign, I'm not going to do it for the first time this coming summer, but up until this time, though, we've had a number of folks, and it's all been volunteer, and some have been neighbors, some have been colleagues of mine. While I was still a faculty member, always we had students. No one's paid for doing this, right? We had students working, we had homeless people working there sometimes, and the thing being that you can take from the garden kind of in proportion to what you think you did and what you think you contributed, which is never a problem, and there was always more than enough stuff for everybody, and we managed. Of course, we did get the land for free, quote unquote, from UE, so I got to say that, right? But beyond that, all the work was ours, and it was all in hands, and it was good. Charlie, did you want to? Okay.
I've lived in shelters, and Thursday night I was at my Bible study expressing my gratitude for their embrace of me spiritually. And this shirt is from a clothing bank, and I indulged in a pantry this month, so I have food in the cupboard. So this kind of outreach is still necessary and welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
So a few weeks ago, I heard you were going to speak on this Tikkun. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Tikkun.
I had no idea what it was, so I Googled it.
Yeah.
And but one of the things is I didn't know is there's a magazine and a website. It's a quarterly interfaith Jewish magazine.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
Just on kindness and things like that. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Tom is. I think I was, right? But I don't know it now. Yeah, I didn't find these words. My wife Jill did when she heard what I was going to talk about. She reads everything anyway, but she was reading it and saw this Tikkun Olam. And she said, "Oh, Bill, this is your topic." And I said, "Oh, okay." so that, yeah, right. Okay. Oh, yeah, go, Tom.
So this topic and what you were talking about just brought this to mind. I used to drink this kind of tea that had a little saying on the the paper tag at the end of the string, and there was a saying on each bag, and so every day I had another little saying that I would tell my friends, and they all laughed at me that I guided my life by these words of wisdom on a tea bag. But one of them always stuck with me, and that is, it said, "A helping hand makes a happy heart." Mm-hmm. And so, what you were talking about, there's this need to care for the earth, and it might be that the earth needs it and other people need it, but we need it too, because it makes us happy to help. And so that's just what I'm going to say.
That's great, thanks. Okay, ready? Okay, cool.
Whoops. Yep, it's getting close, but not quite.
Okay, one of my goals, because I wanted to have a more tranquil and less stress-free life in 2023, and one of the goals that were related to that was I wanted to start writing more. And I wanted to start writing blogs or whatever. But I wanted to have focus. I didn't want to write everything, but I'm pretty eclectic and my interests are wide and my concerns are wide. So I narrowed it down to 5 things. Mental health goes, duh. Spiritual practice goes, duh. I mean, those are like foundational things for me. Social justice, which again is pretty foundational for me. Sustainability, again, things that are very foundational for me, and artistic practice or expression. And the reason I chose those 5 is that the world is big and there's lots of things that are challenging, right? But I had to narrow my focus. And even though that focus is still fairly broad, it's kind of a cohesive whole that kind of feeds and supports itself. So what helped me like prioritize things is that there's so much hurt in the world, but what are the areas that I want to focus on? You know, where do I want to put my input and stamp and contribution geared to the gifts that I have to give? And I think if we think about it that way, is what do I have to give that is unique to me to contribute to healing the world?
Great. Okay.
This is it.
One more thing, and that is, all of you all that plan these services, you feed us, and thank you. And you do make the community better because of that. Not just our community, but the expansive. So thank you.
Thank you. And Bill jogged back to the piano. So now we're ready to hymn number 1064, Blow Boat Home, which I know is becoming increasingly familiar. And because it's a good one. Stand if you're willing and able, and remain so. I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry heart can sing. I've been sailing all my life now. Never harm nor port have I known. The wide universe, the ocean I travel. The earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I plow the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting in with my ship's companions, all we pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of heavens and the beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greeting the endless sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harm or port have I known. The wide universe, the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Now we'll extinguish our chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth. Bill, you have closing words? Oh. You still have a book? Oh, yeah. We kind of invented on the
Oh,
fly.
okay, oh, we know. I'm going to read a great poem by Emily Dickinson. It's a little bit uplifting. Hope is a thing with feathers. Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
Thank you, Bill. So thank you all for being here, and may your being bless the world.